All right, well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Samantha Johnson, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at the University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. Leeds is a top business school offering undergraduate, MBA, MS, and PhD programs, and has an alumni network of over 41,000 strong living and working around the world. We're excited to have Jenny Gerson presenting on Do It Yourself, incorporating environmental and social sustainability at work. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask, please send those questions through the question and answer interface. I will monitor those questions as they're submitted, and they will be answered throughout and at the end of the presentation. As a reminder, for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the question and answer interface, and one of our support specialists will touch base. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants tomorrow, along with a survey link. Now, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Jenny Gerson. Jenny is the Senior Director of Sustainability and Strategy at Zayo, a global communications infrastructure company. She leads energy management initiatives across the company's operated buildings, corporate social responsibility programs, and large strategic projects, including integrations of acquired companies. Prior to joining Zayo in 2014, Jenny's background includes clean tech market and policy research, sustainability management, environmental permitting for renewable energy generation, and ecological systems research. Jenny holds a BA in Evolutionary and Ecological Biology and an MBA from the University of Colorado. Welcome, Jenny, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sam. Great to be here. So as Sam mentioned, I'm Jenny Gerson, the Senior Director of Sustainability and Strategy for Zayo Group. Prior to working at Zayo, I did environmental permitting for wind and solar development, sustainability consulting, and clean tech research. Sustainability has always been a passion of mine, and when I began at Zayo, I was determined to start a program for the company. Zayo is a large multinational public telecom company headquartered in Boulder. We provide the fiber infrastructure for the internet, and while you may not have heard of us, you're all probably using part of our network right now to watch this webinar. Telecom itself has been referenced as a dinosaur of an industry and tends not to be as progressive in environmental and social issues as other industries have been recently. Zayo is more entrepreneurial than most. We still like to call ourselves a startup, but getting sustainability off the ground was certainly an uphill battle. When I started at the company, I was in a role that wasn't related to sustainability, but eventually was able to create and move into roles in the sustainability space. I found it difficult to get buy-in initially from the company, but was able to show the value by pitching cost savings through energy efficiency initiatives at our data centers, and then move into a corporate role. I'm going to walk through my role quickly, and then we'll jump into the presentation. So I moved on to our data center product group a couple years ago, which sells data center space and power to other companies. I implemented over $1 million of energy efficiency investments in projects like power, heating and cooling system upgrades, LED retrofits, improving airflow, operational efficiencies, procuring green power, and adding artificial intelligence systems for energy management. I know this may seem like a foreign language to some of you, so happy to speak more to this in the Q&A later on. While on the data center team, I pitched developing and leading office green teams as a voluntary function to our CFO. He agreed to be my sponsor as I started implementing some corporate initiatives. I rolled out green teams in our largest offices, and they now focus on programs for office waste and energy management, smart commuting, and employee engagement. The green teams also help achieve green certifications at their offices and to comply with local sustainability ordinances. From there, I wrote the business case to create a centralized sustainability role in our corporate organization and convinced the company to allow me to move into that role. I continue to focus on energy efficiency and our green teams, and also work on environmental and social policies like our environmental statement. My role is also a centralized function for internal and external communications about our sustainability strategy, initiatives, and metrics. In addition, I wear a corporate strategy hat in which I provide coordination for large strategic projects like acquisitions. While my current efforts are obviously for one type of organization, my intention is to keep this presentation more general and show the possibility of adding sustainability to any type of workplace. I'll be addressing some of the questions from registration during this presentation, and we'll be getting to others during the Q&A. So keep those in mind and we'll be getting back to them. Also, before we get going, this is going to be a little interactive. We'll be doing a poll shortly, and then towards the end, brainstorming workplace sustainability initiatives. So jot down any ideas you have as we go and be ready to jump in. As we get started, I want to describe what I mean by corporate sustainability. This term, unfortunately, is vague, often misunderstood, and overlaps with other similar terms. This all leads to difficulty when trying to sell sustainability programs at work. To define sustainability, I and many others use the broad definition from the United Nations Brundtland Commission, which is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. From that, corporate sustainability includes environmental, social, and economic impacts to an organization with a forward-looking focus and is more or less synonymous with terms like corporate social responsibility. And I do realize that I'm using the word corporate after I said I was trying to make this relatable to any organization. I'm using that to represent sustainability internal to a workplace. Feel free to swap out whatever word works better for you. So you might be wondering, why do it yourself? Corporate sustainability is a newer concept to most companies and organizations. It may be incorporated in part, but not fully or not at all. And you're sitting there getting annoyed by all the printer paper in the trash and the lights left on at night. It takes an internal, passionate individual to kickstart and grow sustainability programs. And it's my hope that those of you listening align with that description and want to bring something that's impactful to your workplace and bring more meaning to your day-to-day. I found it easiest to look at corporate sustainability from the viewpoint of environment, social, and governance metrics, or ESG, which is how public companies are rated on sustainability. Obviously, not all types of organizations are rated on these specific metrics or rated at all, but the general breakdown of ESG is a convenient framework to start from. ESG is broken down into things like environment and water usage, waste management, greenhouse gas emissions, and supply chain or vendor management in the environmental category, social metrics of attracting, retaining, and developing talent, diversity and inclusion, health and wellness, volunteerism, giving and donations, and community engagement, and governance metrics including security and privacy policies, business ethics, internal controls, and board structure. I'll be specifically focusing on the environmental and social aspects, which are relevant to any organization, whether it's public or private, large or small. So why should organizations care about sustainability? If you're listening, you probably already care, but why should your work? More and more stakeholders do care about sustainability. And I'm going to pause for a second for a quick poll before I move forward, just to make sure we're all on the same page about what stakeholders are, or rather who they are for an organization. So Sam will be putting this up on the screen. And this is a multiple choice, so choose all that apply, and we'll give you guys a couple minutes and then we'll jump back in.
Great, so it looks like we have a little more than half who has responded. We'll give it a few more seconds here. All right, so thank you all for your responses. We'll go ahead and share those results.
All right, well done. So lots of good answers. I like the people who chose bags to hold tent stakes in. But basically what I wanted to show is that nearly every person you can think of is a stakeholder to a company. So obviously everyone got shareholders. But anyone that cares about that organization is going to be considered a stakeholder. So employees, the environment, the community, investors, donors, the organization itself, shareholders, customers, and that's all. So well done on the poll, and keep those in mind as we talk about different stakeholders and how they can be influenced or influence sustainability at an organization. So some of the most telling signs that stakeholders are increasingly focused on sustainability are things like the recent addition of a sustainability tab to show ESG metrics on Yahoo Finance. Obviously, this is only relevant to public companies, but it's a pretty big indicator of the increased level of importance of sustainability for corporations. Another telling sign, whoops, sorry, you guys couldn't see that. There's our sustainability tab. And then another telling sign is the uptick in headlines on sustainability-related issues at workplaces. Research shows that having sustainability ingrained in an organization results in positive impacts to business performance. In short, organizations with a sustainability focus are more, wait for it, sustainable. It's about the health and longevity of all of the company's constituents, its employees, its communities, the environment, its stakeholders and donors, and the business itself, which should be a value proposition to any organization. So if everyone cares, this should be easy. Why don't more organizations focus on environmental and social sustainability? It could be due to cost, resources, priorities, lack of understanding of the value, or maybe, and most likely, no one has stood up to implement it yet. That's where you come in. First, you need to find your starting point to jump in, then get buy-in, start to create value, and then communicate the results. So let's start by finding where to start. First and foremost, start small. I can't say this enough. Many things may seem small, but will quickly snowball. So bite off what you can chew. Plan to hold one volunteer event or add recycling bins in one office. See how it goes and then add on as needed. Next, tackle something that's both important to the stakeholders of the organization and is something you can affect. We'll look at the Materiality Assessment framework briefly for this. Finally, don't forget to look around and see what's already being done and who can help you. So let's look a little bit more into materiality assessments. Basically, this is a framework that can help you identify what matters or is material to internal and external stakeholders and can be addressed by the business. So what speaks to the organizations, its investors, its donors, the world, the communities, and the employees' concerns. Take employee engagement. When employees are engaged, they're more content at work, perform better, and improve the organization's output. This addresses the interests of many stakeholders for any organization. There are many forms of materiality assessments. This one from a manufacturing company shows the significance of environmental, social, and economic factors versus the influence on stakeholder assessments and decisions. I also like ones that look at the importance of factors versus how much ability the organization has to make changes to those factors. For instance, at Zayo, we provide services, not products. So on the environmental side, one of our most material impacts is energy, which is what I focused on at the company. And then aside from that, there's a lot of social issues that we focus on, like employee engagement and different kinds of governance policies. You can find many other examples online of these materiality assessments. It's always good to use these types of frameworks as a starting point to better understand what can be impactful. And if your organization moves towards reporting, these are typically where you begin, so you'll be well on your way. Before we go any further, make sure you know what's already being done and who can help. In most organizations or buildings or communities, there's already a lot going on in this space, so there's no need to recreate the wheel. Start by doing a little research into what, if anything, is being done at the city, state, utility, or federal level. You may be able to get rebates or incentives, training documents, resources, or jump on existing events like Bike to Work Days or Community Volunteer Days. Many cities now have business sustainability outreach personnel. Try giving them a call. Being in Boulder, we're fortunate to have many resources. At the county level, Partners for a Clean Environment, pair businesses with sustainability specialists. The city has numerous initiatives for businesses or individuals, and Excel Energy, our utility, has energy efficiency incentive programs. There's a lot going on. But I've also started an office green team in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And while there aren't quite as many resources there, they still have a business sustainability group to support companies' efforts and a transit authority with great options for smart commuting. Next, look into some comparable organizations. These could be similar in industry, size, growth, or locale. They may have some great ideas on their websites to get you started, or better yet, you may be able to meet with them in person and learn more, or even partner with them to grow larger sustainability programs. I've had a lot of luck with this and have met with companies like Salesforce, Workday, CenturyLink, and Google, as well as many smaller organizations in the area. One of the great things about the sustainability space is that we're all in it together and want to help make an impact. It's rare to find someone in sustainability who doesn't want to collaborate and learn from what other organizations are doing. Then, if your organization is in rented space, reach out to the landlord, otherwise your facilities management team. There may be some easy wins with energy waste or water savings that are already in place but need a little hand-holding, such as adjusting heating and air conditioning settings, recycling or compost that's already on site, changing water flow settings, and swapping out to green cleaning supplies. You can get their help to track bags of waste, monitor utility meters, ensure waste goes to the right place, etc. Also, find out from these guys what you can or can't do in your space. You may be somewhat limited in your building, but there are always small steps that can be taken. Finally, reach out to your fellow coworkers. You may be able to find kindred spirits who would jump at the opportunity to build sustainability programs with you, or you can get the purchasing team to help you source eco-friendly supplies, work with IT to change computer settings or printer settings, or work with the office admins or employee communications teams who can help communicate your initiatives and rally more troops. After you find your starting point, you'll need to get the go-ahead to move forward. Getting buy-in for sustainability programs will be different in every organization. Some companies may just get it when a solid plan is presented, and others may need a little more convincing. There's so much backing for the importance of sustainability in the workplace that most organizations should be able to eventually understand the value of it, but it's up to you to show it. To get buy-in, you first want to make a plan. Share that plan with advocates at your organization who can support you, and ensure these advocates understand the value of your proposal. We'll walk through each of those a bit more. Let's start with your plan. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And how long will it take to show results? Let's say you're going to decrease waste going to landfill from your office. You'll do this by working with the landlord or facilities management team to add recycling and compost bins around the office and provide training to your coworkers to create engagement around the program. Then count or preferably weigh the bags of waste and track the results. You'll do this above and beyond your normal roles and responsibilities. If needed, make sure to propose a budget to buy materials and hold events. Flesh out a realistic timeline to implement and track, but don't overpromise. Implementing programs and creating change takes time. Whatever plan you do have, propose it in a way that can't be refused. You're going to save the organization money, reduce waste, engage the workforce, and you'll do this on a voluntary basis. Once your plan is baked, you'll need to find the best person to enable you to put your plan in motion. While all the steps are important, this is probably the most crucial to get your program off the ground. You'll need to find someone who has enough clout in the organization to make your plan a reality. And this person will differ based on different organization structures. The best place to start may be with your manager or another person who can advocate for you. With their approval, work your way up until you can engage the right person to give your initiative the go-ahead, provide support, and approve a budget if needed. Perhaps this is a department lead in the area you're proposing to impact, such as facilities management for waste programs or the head of communications for employee engagement. Or maybe you'll need to get the buy-in from the head of your organization. And I'd actually recommend working to engage this person if possible. More change can happen if he or she is involved and supports these programs from the top down. Wherever you end up, ask if he or she will be your sponsor to help you support your initiatives. Finally, you want to make sure that your sponsor understands the value of your sustainability plan. An easy way to do this is to align with the organization's values. Does the org value its human capital? If so, show the ways in which you can enhance things like engagement and retention. Very likely, companies will be focused on profits. Show how your program can increase cost savings and margins, even increase revenue through sustainable branding. Perhaps your org truly cares about the environment. Then promote how your program can impact resource conservation and decrease emissions. All right, so now you've gotten buy-in and you're off and running. Now you've better create that value that you signed off on. I'll start with some overall strategies that lend themselves to all sorts of value creation. These are essentially many birds, one stone type of plans. Any initiative with cost savings that can lead to fast return on investment is a good bet. Consider projects like changing settings for lighting or heating and air conditioning or computers, reducing water usage with low-flow aerators, or reducing product packaging. Creating office green teams or running events that employees can volunteer at are great strategies. Office green teams and volunteer events can both lead to increased employee engagement and satisfaction, as well as help accelerate sustainability initiatives. For volunteer events, ensure these fit with your organization's values or charitable pillars. A great benefit of green teams and volunteer events is that they bring people together from different parts of the organization. I've received feedback that this is the most enjoyable aspect of being on the green teams. It helps to break down silos and meet others. And lastly, gamification. Definitely one of those recently overused words, but this stuff works. Pit employees, departments, or offices against each other and watch the sustainability fly. I found this to work really well for things like recycling challenges, bike to work competitions, and office energy quizzes. And then sweeten the deal a bit. People get super excited to win a t-shirt or lunch. Get 100% on a waste quiz and win a reusable mug. Take 3 modes of transportation in a month and win a pair of cycling socks. Or the department with the most number of volunteers at an event wins a catered lunch. Finally, you need to be able to report back on the progress and results of your program. Get those spreadsheets ready to assess, track, and report. Get initial data to assess the baseline. Maybe this is the current number of bags going to landfill or current number of employees volunteering per month. Then set reasonable goals to track towards. This could be a community or industry standard, such as City of Boulder's Zero Waste Ordinance, or best in class for amount of energy used per person in an office. Then benchmark against your baseline. Track everything. This will come in handy. I can't tell you how many times something I didn't see the point in tracking became really useful later on. So track those bags of waste, utility bills, water bills, meters, number of people volunteering at an event, and number of hours volunteered, and changes in engagement levels via surveys. Some examples of tracking include investment on energy projects and the subsequent dollar and energy savings. So these are projects and their completion status, so complete in progress, not started. Total capital spend, the estimated monthly savings, and estimated monthly kilowatt savings. And then you can see I've put it into total complete for all of those, the return on investment, tons of CO2 saved, and then a relatable metric, which we'll talk about a little later. This shows employee engagement at events, so the types of events, what program they fall into, if it's a volunteer event, if it falls within a diversity program, panel participation, and then again, summing those up over time. So then you want to report on your results. This will have to be tailored to your organization based on your internal communications and the types of programs you're starting. Maybe it's a monthly newsletter emailed to the organization like this one, or weekly call-outs on a month-long commuting event. If you started office green teams, meet with them regularly to plan future events and discuss how past events went. Make sure to follow up with that sponsor who has been your support. Let him or her know the progress you've made. Whatever medium you report on, make sure the metrics you're showing are relatable and easily understood by all. So in this newsletter, I definitely could have converted some of these metrics like distances and CO2 savings into more relatable metrics. And then once you've done this, this may be used for external reporting later on. So keep that in mind as you're showing progress internally. All right, we have made it to the interactive portion. So I've talked a lot about the how to get sustainability programs started. Now I'd like to focus on the what. So we're going to jump in on Q&A. So you can write into the Q&A function on your Zoom, and I'll be adding these in live. And so I mentioned several ideas earlier on. You feel free to shout those out again. That's totally fine. Or come up with your own. The idea here is to get a well-rounded view of types of sustainability initiatives that can be done across any type of organization. So I'll give you a minute to start writing in.
And Jenny, while everyone is sharing their ideas, do you mind reviewing environmental and social?
Sure.
Again.
1 sec. So environmental is going to be anything that impacts the environment. So that's going to be energy savings, smart commuting, Lewis just yelled out, measuring greenhouse gas, measuring bags of waste, getting waste in the right place. Social is going to be anything that impacts people.
Okay.
And people are starting to write in now, so I'm going to try and keep up with everything. Oops. Awesome. So on the environmental side, we had smart commuting. On the social side, we have competition among departments to collect pounds of food for a local food pantry. And again, on the environmental side, I'm going to jump over here. Oops. You guys all get to see my fantastic typing skills. Yeah. And so this one, on eliminating individual and conference room, copy room trash recycling buckets, that's a great idea. I know some people think that it's better to have more opportunities to dispose of things closer to people. I actually want to look more into that and see what works best if you want to have everything in one spot or spread it out throughout the office for ease of disposal. And then we have standard occupied heat set points. And those are great. We have a lot of issues with that in our office right now that I'm trying to mediate.
We do too here at the university.
Lots of people have different opinions on those set points.
Yeah.
And then we have turning lights off. That's great. That's something we try and do in our office. Mm-hmm. We have half automated and probably less half automated and some not automated. So we have stickers up everywhere to remind people.
So there are a couple other that came through the chat. Yeah. So one is, well, ensuring copy rooms have recycle bins.
Yep. That's a great one. Let me check that out.
Great. Yep.
Yes, that's huge. Always trying to have a recycle bin next to your copier.
Yeah. Another one, this sounds like fun, so craft workshops.
Nice.
So we just had one today for recycled gift bows. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Incentivize bringing lunch rather than driving.
Yeah, that's good.
And then Office supply collection and reuse program.
Say that again, office.
An office supply collection and reuse program.
That's great. I think there's one more down here.
Yep.
Thanks, Louis. Company volunteer policy, that's huge. So allowing your offices to volunteer however you want, whether it's paid time off or just allowing them to make up time later, but to go out and volunteer either for a corporate initiative or as they wish. And then we have, yes, this is great, eliminate single cup beverage packaging. That is a good one. Let me type that in. Great. Any others out there? Keep jumping in. Either we're getting them off the chat or the Q&A. I have a really long laundry list that we can jump to also after this, but I want to hear from you guys.
So another one through the chat is monthly lunch and learns on sustainability topics.
That's awesome.
I love that, especially because I feel like that could help individuals bring this home with them too. You know, that is,
yes.
All of this, but
that's great. I really like that one. That's a good one. Actually, that can be both social and environmental. I think there's a couple more coming through on chat.
Yes. So another one is biweekly coffee breaks to encourage sustainability-related conversations. Ooh. So watching a video and then discussing it.
That's great.
Then we have one more through the question and answer that's come through, environmentally sensitive cleaning products.
Yes, that's a great one. And then place, landscape. Yes, that's a good one too. So this is on landscape and turf. So place signage on landscape, turf, grass, flowing summer. Yep, that's great. Only water what you need to water. And another one on chat. No, okay. Great, well then, this is awesome. Anyone have any last ones that you want to put out there? All right, we're going to jump back into this then, and I have my long laundry list. So I'm just going to read through these quickly, but adding recycling and compost bins and signage. Signage is really important so people know what goes where. Turn off the light stickers we talked about. Turn on efficient computer settings with your IT group. Having a smart commuting day. Adding low flow aerators to sinks. Waste diversion training and competitions. Energy usage training and competitions. LED retrofits, that's getting a little more complex, but switching out your light bulbs to more efficient lighting. Using Department of Energy tracking to see how much your offices are using and monitor it. Buying Energy Star appliances whenever you need new appliances like dishwashers, refrigerators, microwaves, things like that. Adding dishwashers, so actually having an efficient dishwasher is better than not. And having it full is obviously better than running an empty one. So adding signage to make sure people know if it's clean or dirty. Buying reusable dishware for the office rather than having plastic or definitely not styrofoam, I hope, although we have the one-off styrofoam cups floating around. Update heating and cooling settings, we touched on that. Bringing in eco-friendly cleaning products, we touched on that. Implementing environmental policies, so having a smart commuting policy for incentivization, green purchasing policy for buying green products or eco-friendly products, and environmental policy, how you're going to impact climate change or resiliency, and then how to hold green events. Purchase renewable energy certificates. So that's something that's obviously it costs money, but it's pretty easy to do. Buying offsets for corporate travel or your company in general, and buying green power would be the best of those. Business or production, packaging, and consumer waste reduction. So if you produce products, how can you make less waste from your product packaging? Send printing to grayscale and double-sided. That's huge. A lot of companies are printing in single-sided, so just switching that with IT, super easy. Working on LEEDs or other building certifications for your building. Buying only products that are green certified and post-consumer recycled. E-waste recycling. We did this earlier in the year, having a collection for phones, tablets, computers, and you can drop those off at hard-to-recycle facilities. Reducing the release of harmful chemicals and emissions if that's the business that you're in. And providing a collection for hard-to-recycle materials. So that would be like large plastic or metal items. I know Boulder has Charm, which you can recycle those at. Other places may have others. I kind of said this before, but carbon offsets for business travel. This is a good one. This is the business I'm in, but if you co-locate your servers, a lot of businesses have their data and their servers on site. It's actually better to co-locate your servers by about 40% at a data center, or even better, virtualize your servers in the cloud. On the social side, provide volunteers for community, diversity and inclusion, or development, or environmental volunteer events. Have a day of service with a local nonprofit. Attend sustainability training events in the community. Ethics training for employees, that's really huge. That comes up a lot as a metric that companies are judged on. Human rights policy tracking, so making sure that you're complying with your human rights policy. And this is kind of backwards, but writing and implementing social policies, so vacation time, human rights, parental leave, workplace safety, things like that. Providing child or elder care programs or a subsidy, having a work-life support program to make sure work-life balance is appropriate, wellness and fitness programs or subsidies, develop resource groups for underrepresented employee groups. So for instance, we have Women in Technology group, we have a veterans group, many people will have like a Hispanic group, Asian group, things like that, to support one another and provide inclusion opportunities. Cultural heritage potluck, we did one of those recently and it was super fun and people brought food from all over. That was exciting. Disaster relief collections and volunteering, we've done that. I know a lot of companies do that if there's a disaster, just providing goods that can be sent over. Then donating goods, like we had a can donation someone suggested, or food donation. Charitable event sponsorship, so providing money towards nonprofits or charitable events. Provide pro bono services for a nonprofit. Provide space or equipment for charitable events, so if you have a meeting room that you can provide to a nonprofit to hold their event. Start special interest groups. We have like a running club and a fitness club and a skiing club, and I think a few others like that. Employee recognition programs, these are huge for engagement. Employee donation matching, so if employees are donating or volunteering to have a corporate donation matching program. In-kind donations or fundraisers, kind of touched on that, but cans for food pantry, blood bank donations, jackets for homeless shelters. So I'm sure you guys probably thought of more as we were talking about it. Feel free to keep adding those in the Q&A and we'll touch on them at the very end. So before I sign off, just wanted to leave you with some helpful resources. So general resources on reporting if you're a nonprofit. or government agency. The Certified B Corporation has a lot of good information. If you're a corporation, GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative is really good for sustainability reporting, and everyone can benefit from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Those are a great resource. In sustainability trends, Boston College has a lot of research that they provide, especially on the social side of sustainability. Harvard Business Review has a sustainability blog, and then Green Biz is something good to follow. And of course, local city or state sustainability programs have a lot of good information. And this will be sent out afterwards, I believe, as a PDF, so you'll be able to click into all of these links. On the energy and carbon footprint side, the U.S. Department of Energy Energy Star program provides a list of efficient products. They also provide strategies for energy efficiency in buildings and plants. ASHRAE is a little more technical, but they have energy efficiency standards in buildings, so those set points for heating and cooling. CDP is the Carbon Disclosure Project, one of the main things used for carbon footprint analysis. And then obviously your local utility for business rebates and incentives. On the transportation side, this is going to be highly localized. So check with your local transit authority, but People for Bikes also has great resources. So thank you all for joining. I hope this presentation empowers you to stand up and bring something you're passionate about to work. And we'll open it up for Q&A. I think someone just wrote on the chat again, and I'll let Sam say how we want to do this.
Yes, great. So we have some questions. Thank you to those who submitted questions during your registration. So we'll make sure to ask those. And then other questions, topics of conversation that you want to talk through during the rest of our time here today, feel free to send those through the question and answer interface, and we'll make sure to get those answered. And yes, through the chat. So we'll make sure to include that information. Thanks, Pete. But there's also a continued learning opportunity through CU in addition to the list of awesome resources that Jenny just shared. There is a certificate in CSR here in Boulder, and then also in Denver during the spring semester. So that's the certificate in corporate social responsibility. We'll make sure to share that out. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you. Good
for sharing that resource. So, Jenny, one of the questions that came through from the registration was, addressing current jobs. You said that you created this role, or you created space in your current job that wasn't corporate sustainability. So, how do you suggest folks find them? Where are you seeing this show up in the business world?
So yes, I get this question a lot. Being in Boulder, there's a lot of people that care about sustainability, social or environmental, and they want to work in it. And Boulder has a lot of small or medium companies, size companies that don't necessarily have a CSR department or a sustainability department, or it may be a branch of a larger company where, again, the corporate office kind of sits elsewhere. So sustainability roles are few and far between. And so that's why I kind of presented on this do-it-yourself model, where you provide it as a voluntary basis and then aim to create that role for yourself later on. I found that worked for many people in this space. I actually copied someone that did it at Workday and kind of followed in suit what he had done. And so it's not out of the question to create a role. It's obviously easier to create a role when a business has trust in you and you've kind of proven yourself with them that this is something that you can take on rather than the outside trying to come in and create it. If you want to be in kind of the corporate sustainability role off the bat, the jobs are going to primarily be in the San Francisco and Portland area. New York and DC and Boston also have a lot as well, wherever large companies are headquartered who are focusing on these kinds of initiatives. But stay here in Boulder and create those jobs for yourself.
So you talked about this a little bit throughout your presentation, but maybe we can dive into it a little more, some different examples of how in a large company, how can environmental sustainability be addressed in a way that has that financial incentive, getting that buy-in that you were talking about?
Sure. Yeah, so that's exactly what I focused on at first. So I went after those energy efficiency projects that not only were reducing the amount of energy we used, but actually providing a financial incentive. So the initial projects that I went after had a payback on them in under a year, which is pretty phenomenal. And there's a lot of items in the energy space that, again, you can change settings rather than actually putting money out, and then you're going to get an instant payback on investment. So projects like those are huge to show the financial value or incentive to a company.
Do you have any tips for consultants who are hired externally?
Yes, I saw that question.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I know there's a lot of sustainability consultants out there, and it's kind of the same thing where you need to get buy-in from the company. So, you need to have the highest level person kind of on board and agreeing with your plan and playing into the values of that organization. So if you're throwing environmental stuff at them and they're not incentivized or value the environment for the sake of the environment, you're probably not going to get very far. So I would start by doing a values assessment, a materiality assessment, and then jumping in from there, making sure that you have the buy-in from that top person.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I feel like I love this other question that was submitted through our registration. So this is advice on getting other countries on board with these changes.
Yeah.
And this is so relevant, I feel like, not only for those of us who are in the workplace, given that it continues to increase. It's increasingly global. We're talking about the world of business with our students. This is so relevant now. So where have you seen successes? What's your advice?
Yeah, so like we said, we're a multinational company. So we have offices in several cities in Canada, London, Paris, and a few other locations in Europe. Basically, a lot of these countries are further ahead of us in terms of many sustainability, but especially on the social side and on the environmental side. Our Paris office has to recycle. Paris is kind of mandated, similar in New York, you're going to see more recycling. And they also have to provide better social benefits than the US does, and same in Canada. So I actually have a lot less to do in those countries than I do in the US, ironically. I've been talking about starting green teams in our Toronto office, our Paris and London offices. They're all really excited about it. There's some changes coming to the company, so I haven't been able to roll those out to those offices, but I have had people come to me from our Vancouver, Canada office. They want to get compost going, and so I'm helping them with that. And it's the same process, looking at seeing what the city does, if they have composting programs, and then getting a vendor in there to do it and making sure that our facilities management team in corporate is willing to be on board with that. So that's been huge, mainly with employees kind of coming to me and saying, I'd like to do this, and then letting them jump on board. But yeah, for the most part, it's been very easy to get other countries on board. They're already doing a lot of this stuff, and they get it, and it's not a huge upward battle.
That's good to hear for the other countries. Yeah.
Not all countries. Yeah, there could be, I'm talking, westernized first world countries.
Right.
And I don't have a ton of experience in third world countries, so that's definitely a different discussion.
What do you feel like where low-hanging fruit if someone's getting started? What are some examples of those easy, quick wins? Yeah,
low-hanging fruit. So I talked about the kind of those many birds, one stone strategies. So holding a volunteer event. Doesn't matter what you're volunteering for, as long as it aligns with your company's values and charitable pillars. But getting people out and engaged and excited to help the community, that's huge, very easy. Getting policies written, maybe that's not a low-hanging fruit, but it's an easy way to get this stuff off the ground. So allowing people to volunteer during the day. And then things like getting recycle bins in offices, I'd say that's a pretty low-hanging fruit. A lot of companies in Boulder already are forced into that because of the zero waste ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to attack that, I found out that there are already dumpsters outside for recycling and compost, and we were already paying for it, and we weren't utilizing it. And so we just got everything on the ground. Worked with, I mentioned PACE, the Partners for a Clean Environment, and they helped us get rebates for all of our recycle bins and our compost bins. And so we were able to roll all of that out free of charge, aside from volunteer time, to get everything put out there and train employees.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
What was most surprising to you as you started this?
Most surprising to me was actually like the amount of support I had from other employees and how excited and interested they were to jump in. I thought I was going to be doing everything myself, and that I was prepared to do that, and had about 50 employees across the 3 offices kind of jump in and get really excited. The other surprising thing was in Tulsa. Really didn't expect much to happen there, and we had some great individuals that kind of jumped in and were excited to do what they could. We had one guy that took recycling to the recycling plant every week, and he took compost home to his own compost.
Wow.
Every day.
That is dedication.
It was so, he was so dedicated. He was definitely in it. We had people that were super excited to minimize energy. We have a lot of engineers at our company, and they get really excited about this stuff. So there's a lot of people who will jump in because they know how much better things can operate when they're operating efficiently. And so they were very excited. It was not hard to show the value to those people. It was actually harder to show the value to like the straight finance and business people.
Interesting. And what would you make sure to bring to your conversation with those individuals that didn't see the value clearly?
Sorry, say that again.
So those no, you're all good. So those individuals that didn't get on board right away, what did you bring to the table for those?
That's a good
conversation.
I tried to sell it in many different ways. So first, the financial aspect, that went over well, and then the things that are less tangible, like employee engagement. I had a very good conversation with our CFO a few months ago, and kind of laid it all out for him, how the baseline of our company's profitability and our output can be enhanced by increasing our employee engagement. So if you start with employee engagement, they're more bought into the company, they're more excited to get the work done, they do better work, and then your overall output increases, and you hit those business targets that you have.
And there seems to be a lot more research coming out showing that the benefits of employee engagement specifically.
Yeah, so Harvard Business Review has a ton of blogs on this, on how companies that focus on sustainability are more profitable, and it's how much they have it ingrained into their kind of company's backbone. It really leads to that output metric. So there's lots of research, lots of good stuff to show, but that's still at the point where a lot of CFOs and CEOs are like, yeah, okay, but I can't see it, I can't touch it, I don't really know what you're telling me right now. So I showed all those metrics, and it's just a matter of proving it internally to the value of your company.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I want to address a question that came through so that everyone can make sure to know. So asking about, will this webinar be posted anywhere after this? Will we be receiving copies? So we will send you a copy of the recording, and as Jenny mentioned, a link to the slides in an email tomorrow. So you'll see that in your inboxes. And then this also will be posted online with all of our other previous webinars on our website, which is colorado.edu/business/alumni/webinars. And don't worry, you don't have to write that down. That's also in the email. But before we sign off here, I just want to make sure, see if anyone has any more questions for Jenny. This has all been incredible, so thank you. But we'll give it another minute here if anyone has any last questions they want answered before we all take off. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. Thank you for your participation in the great brainstorming session, sharing all of the great work you all are already doing in your space. And Jenny, thank you so much again for all this great information. So as a reminder, we said it earlier, but to view upcoming webinars and to request previous recordings, like Jenny's, please do visit our website at www.colorado.edu/business/webinars, and have a great rest of your day, and go Buffs.